Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and many of their supporters on the left and right do not see human beings in the Jews of Israel. They reduce human beings to grotesque caricatures. One does it out of the perversion of religion, the other does it out of the perversion of politics and race. It makes it easier to rape, torture, kill, and kidnap when people are demonized and no longer seen as human beings. To the left, the Jews of Israel are not human beings. The left uses words such as occupiers, settlers, Zionists, Europeans, not out of a sense of justice or understanding of their meaning, but because they believe their use of these words diminish the value of the human beings that happen to be Israeli. They dismiss the fact that most Israelis are from the Middle East and North Africa, where many were ethnically cleansed and forced to flee with their lives to Israel. Demonizing and diminishing the Jews of Israel makes it easier to support their slaughter. The many leftists, with their leftist networks and media outlets, know full well the atrocities Hamas and Islamic Jihad committed on October 7th, 2023, but they choose to explain it away, ignore it, or even blame the atrocities on the Jews themselves. They want their self-righteous, pathetic little narratives kept alive. These are people that talk about justice even as they support not only injustice, but murder, torture, rape, kidnapping, as long as it is committed against the ones they hate. It is far beyond hypocrisy in the scope of its evil. If this were about concern about the children and civilians of Gaza, it would be understandable, even if misguided, if it continues to free Hamas and Islamic Jihad from responsibility for the nightmare they have created. It is not about the civilians and children of Gaza. It is about destroying Israel and exterminating its Jewish population. Millions of children and civilians have been killed in recent wars in Darfur in the Sudan, in Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq, in Libya, in Somalia, in northern Nigeria, in Myanmar, in the Central African Republic, in the Congo region, in Ethiopia, in southern Thailand, in southern Philippines, and in many other places, with barely a voice of concern raised anywhere. There is no concern for children and civilians unless somehow the Jew can be blamed or be held responsible. Right now there is genocide taking place in Darfur against the black Muslims living there in the Sudan by Arab militias. No protests, no outcries, barely anything. Hamas and Islamic Jihad kidnapped Jewish babies and children to Gaza, usually after killing their parents or guardians. Hundreds of Israeli civilians were kidnapped and are now held captive. The left and the many supporters of Hamas and Islamic Jihad find posters of these children and captives so offensive that not only do they rip them up, but they often attack people putting up the posters or defending the posters. There are mass protests calling for the gassing of the Jews, protests calling for the complete destruction of Israel and the extermination of its Jewish population are taking place all over the world. Make no mistake about what many on the left, many on the right, and many that hide behind religion are defending. On October 7th, Hamas and Islamic Jihad raped young women and girls, beheaded babies, children, and defenseless adults, burned people alive, killed and wounded defenseless people, thousands by bullets, by the thousands by bullets and by grenades and explosives, many killed at point-blank range, killed a baby's parents and then microwaved the baby, disemboweled pregnant women, cut off the hands of babies, kidnapped hundreds of children, babies, old women, defenseless women and men.